Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. Later on in the show I'll be doing some press releases from Abta, the Travel Association. It's their travel conference at the moment, so being the first day they had loads of releases to come out, stuff which is mainly aimed at travel agents, but I think it'd be of interest to you too because you can see how you compare with the people who were surveyed by Abta and Abta's contractors. But the main spotlight of this week's show is going to be on Cranfield University, and I'm talking to Iain Gray, who's Professor and Director of Aerospace at Cranfield University. Iain leads the aerospace capabilities across the university and their strategic relationships with the world's major aerospace industrial organisations. I have mentioned a few shows in the past that I live at the end of the runway at Cranfield. Not quite true, there is a house and a little bit of a field between me and the runway. And I looked at moving to Cranfield maybe 15, 16 years ago. And I must have come when there was an air show because I went in the garden of the house I was looking at. And I thought, oh no, I can't be having with that. It sounded like loads of lawnmowers going off at the same time as these little planes were taking off and landing. But then I ended up being here anyway. But I make decisions like that all the time. Before our last house, we looked at a terraced house in a village called Eversholt. And we said, no, we don't want a downstairs bathroom in a terraced house. And would you know, a year later, we were 2 miles down the road in Tingriff in a terraced house with a downstairs bathroom. So you never know what's going to happen. But anyway, I'm wobbling on. I wanted to see how Cranfield are involved in the world of aerospace and commercial flying. But before we started, I thought it'd be of interest to find out what the history of the university is. And that's the first thing I asked Professor Iain.
Well, Cranfield originally was an RAF site. It was a key site during the wars. In fact, interestingly, it stationed Bristol Blenheims during the Second World War. The origins of it as a university date back to 1946, in fact probably a couple of years before that, where the country was looking at how does it develop its engineers and its research to support the aerospace industry coming out of the Second World War. In fact, it was an early example of industrial strategy. And the working group that was put in place by the government and industry decided that what was needed in the UK was a college of aeronautics, a college that would have an airport and a runway, a college that would develop the engineers of the future. And they searched around the UK for possible locations for this. They looked at possibly building a new college or using any college, and they decided that the optimum solution, most cost-effective solution, was to actually use a existing RAF base, and the one they chose was RAF here at Cranfield. So the origins of the site stem those early RAF days. Much of the campus still has some of that ex-RAF base feel to it. But since 1946, it was established as the College of Aeronautics as a UK benefit, and the rest is history. It's now the University of Cranfield.
You mentioned a runway. I believe you're the only university that has its own runway. What does that allow you to do, which other universities might struggle at?
Yeah, we are undoubtedly the only university in the UK with its own airport and runway. I argue that, in fact, we're the only university in Europe with its own airport and runway. I find, as an analogy, if you're looking at a university hospital, for example, then you want access to patients and you want access to hospital facilities. In aerospace, the analogy would be the same to me. If you are at the top of a tree in aerospace, then you need to have access to an airport and a runway. You need to have access to aeroplanes. There's lots of universities are involved in aerospace, and they develop parts of the agenda, whether it be materials, whether it be new avionics, whether it be even configurations, but uniquely, Cranfield has an airport and a runway that allows you to take those ideas all the way through to aeroplanes and actually build things, fly things, and demonstrate things. That's what's unique about Cranfield University.
You have some housing alongside one half of the airfield. Does that cause any problems? Do you get on with the village at Cranfield okay?
Well, the university and the village have sort of coexisted for a long time. I mean, 70 years we've had the College of Aeronautics here. Many of the staff that work here live in the village. Many of the students that come here actually live in the village. The village is on the opposite side of the runway. The recent Festival of Flight, which was to celebrate 70 years of the university, one of the key objectives of that was to allow the local community, the people that live in the village, to see a bit more about what goes on here at the university and help develop sort of closer relationships. And actually, one of the side benefits of running the Festival of Flight was the number of people from the village who had great stories that they could recall over the last 70 years of the importance of the university and the importance of the runway to the local community. So we coexist. I think it's very, very important that the local community and the university can get along together, and so events like the Festival of Flight were very important in achieving that objective.
Yeah, unfortunately I missed that because I was out of the country. I booked my holiday and then I saw the posters and I went, oh no, I was looking forward to because it
was great. We were slightly unfortunate with the weather, which curtailed some of the flying, but it was fantastic to see sort of 5,000 people sort of on the campus. We had an open doors morning. It allowed some people to see some of the things that go on behind the scenes. We had an exploratorium that allowed the young children to mix with science and what goes on in technology. We had a great car exhibition, a lovely heritage exhibition. And then for me, the icing on the cake was some of the aircraft we had out on the static display. And we still had a small number of, what for me were magnificent flying displays, just reinforcing the role that Cranfield plays.
Do we have to wait 70 years for the next one?
Well, we're not. We obviously need to sort of review what worked, what didn't work, what lessons we can learn from this. I think there were a number of things that came out of the event that we will want to run on a much more regular basis. Whether that extends to flying or not, well, we'll review that. I am convinced you won't have to wait another 70 years, however, for that to happen again.
Oh, good. But I'll try not to be away for the next one. You're listening to The Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. Still to come on the show, news from the travel convention. That's Abta's Jolly, which this year is being held in Abu Dhabi. The spotlight this week is on Cranfield University. My guest is Iain Gray, who's Professor and Director of Aerospace at the university. Iain has just talked through the basic history of the airfield and the university, how it integrates with the local village, and why the university is unique in the UK and probably Europe. So we're now going to get a little bit more involved and a bit more technical. Not that technical, but we're going to be talking about technical bits and pieces. And the first thing I wanted to know about was the Air Traffic Management Laboratory, or ATM. And the reason I was interested in that is because of the Heathrow Gatwick, who's going to get the extra runway. And I'm also trying to find out which airport in the UK has the most delays. So this is fresh in my mind at the minute. So it's very interesting to me. And I wanted to know if the problems I'm investigating at the moment, which hopefully will be on a future show, can be solved with the research being done at the university. So I've gone on a bit, but yeah, we're talking about the Air Traffic Management Lab at Cranfield University.
So, I mean, if you look at the skies, the sort of traffic volumes in the sky and the projections over the next 20 to 30 years, I mean, there's a huge increase in air traffic. So one of the things it's just looking to do is, how using more modern air traffic control methodologies can we cope with the increased volume of traffic in the sky. There are things around the environment and noise, how we can use air traffic management methods to help reduce the impact of aerospace on the environment and reduce the impact of aerospace on the noise footprints. There are new methodologies being introduced all the time. There are technologies called virtual control towers, where rather than somebody standing in a control tower with visual line of sight to the aircraft coming in, then the virtual control tower allows people to see what's going on in a more virtual environment. And when you look at number of smaller airports around the UK, it may well be that virtual control towers can start looking at the traffic environments in more than one airport. So rather than having an air traffic control tower at every airport, you have a virtual control tower maybe looking at 2 or 3 very small airports altogether. So there's a lot of technology that's going on around air traffic management, and Cranfield is one of the few places in the world where air traffic management is one of the core aspects of the research agenda. In fact, interestingly enough, we've just come back from a very important meeting over in Singapore. And Singapore are reputed to be one of the top universities around air traffic management. And you look at the airport developments over there, they're enormous. And Singapore are looking to work with Cranfield because they recognise the global leadership we have in air traffic management research. So, it's not just a UK issue. It's an issue that on the other side of the world, people are looking in at Cranfield as being a leader in this technology.
I understand that when airports are closed because of fog, it's because the air traffic control people can't see the planes on the ground. So would the virtual traffic management be able to still be able to operate when there is a lot of ground fog around?
I think the whole issue of fog and bad weather is something that, as a passenger, we do get frustrated when airports are closed, and the new technologies that we're introducing will allow will allow aircraft to come in more extreme weather conditions. So yeah, no, I'm convinced